Hello, friends, and welcome back to another episode of the Juicebox Podcast. Usually you see today's guest on television catching passes from Patrick Mahomes, but today he's on the Juicebox Podcast talking about his life with type 1 diabetes. Please don't forget that nothing you hear on the Juicebox Podcast should be considered advice, medical or otherwise. Always consult a physician before making any changes to your healthcare plan or becoming bold with insulin. When you place your first order for AG1 Next Gen with my link, you'll also get a free bottle of AG D3K2, a welcome kit, and 5 of the upgraded travel packs. Use my link, drinkag1.com/juicebox. Are you an adult living with type 1 or the caregiver of someone who is, and a U.S. resident? If you are, I'd love it if you would go to t1dexchange.org/juicebox and take the survey. When you complete that survey, your answers are used to move type 1 diabetes research of all kinds. So if you'd like to help with type 1 research, but don't have time to go to a doctor or an investigation, and you want to do something right there from your sofa, this is the way. t1dexchange.org/juicebox. It should not take you more than about 10 minutes. If your loved one is newly diagnosed with type 1 diabetes and you're seeking a clear, practical perspective, check out the Bold Beginnings series on the Juicebox Podcast. It's hosted by myself and Jenny Smith, an experienced diabetes educator with over 35 years of personal insight into type 1. Our series cuts through the medical jargon and delivers straightforward answers to your most pressing questions. You'll gain insight from real patients and caregivers and find practical advice to help you confidently navigate life with type 1. You can start your journey informed and empowered with the Juicebox Podcast. The Bold Beginnings series and all of the collections in the Juicebox Podcast are available in your audio app and at juiceboxpodcast.com in the menu. If you'd like to learn more about the Juicebox Podcast, hit follow or subscribe in the audio app you're listening in right now. Ladies and gentlemen, number 83 for the Kansas City Chiefs, tight end Noah Gray. I'm going to start with a big picture idea. I've been thinking about this all day. Do you know that the odds of you having type 1 diabetes, playing at least one game in the NFL, and winning a Super Bowl are like 1 in a billion?
I didn't know the exact number on that, but that's a blessing right there. I'm very fortunate.
Isn't that something? Like, so what made me think of it was my son played college baseball for 4 years, and people would say, oh, but you didn't keep playing. One time I just did the math, and the amount of kids that are born in a year who go to play Little League, who then end up playing in high school, who then play, that number dwindles down to the fact that I think 9,000 kids play college baseball every year.
Yeah.
And in my mind, you've won already then. But
yeah,
knowing there's still a peak there, there's a little farther to go. I'm wondering how aware you are of how rarefied the situation is. Is it a thing you can even think about, or would it throw you off to think about it?
No, I've never really thought about it. I think when it mostly sets in is if I go do a signing that's public, or when I'm at a football game and I see a type 1 sign, I'm here for number 83, I think it kind of makes me realize that the type 1 community is extremely small. Mm-hmm. And I do have a very big platform, and the stage that I'm on, there's only I think 5, maybe a little over 5 of us in the NFL that are playing with type 1 diabetes. I'm friends with Chad Muma with the Jaguars. I've talked to Blake Ferguson over with the Dolphins. And when I see those kids and they show up and all they care about is giving me gummies in exchange, they'll give me gummies. I'll sign gloves. I'll sign their sign.
Yeah.
Or they just show up to the autograph signing literally because they just wanted to meet me because I had type 1. People that didn't even really, a lot of them do care about football, obviously, but some of them are just athletes or just young kids who are recently diagnosed or really just trying to find, what they're interested in. And they found out I had type 1 and I'm going to be at a certain spot. I think it really puts it in perspective to me, just kind of how big that impact that I could have on their lives are.
Right.
And I think that's kind of really when that kind of sets in. Because really, I just try to keep it pushing. Like, I'm in the NFL. I'm not going to let type 1 define who I am. Like, this is my job. This has been my dream since I was a kid. So I usually don't think about that. But like, if I'm on the sideline and look behind me and there's a kid that went to a Pittsburgh Steelers game and he's got a type 1 sign, he's probably the only one in that stadium with a type 1 sign. I think it really humbles me. It makes me really appreciate kind of moments like that, and how big of an impact we can make being on that field to motivate other kids to be the best possible version of themselves and whatever it is that they want to do. So I think kind of those moments are really kind of when I realize that it's a lot bigger than myself, and there's a lot of other type 1 diabetics, like I said, a really small community, but they're just trying to be the best version of themselves and really make it, the goals that they have set forth in their life come true.
I have a lot of questions here from people, and you'll see when we get to them that they wrap a lot around that. Like, I think they look to you and they think, wow, he did this. Like, that gives them a ton of hope. I don't imagine it's pressure for you. It must feel nice to be able to be that person for somebody else.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's a lot of pressure. Pressure I just give to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And when I look at all these other kids, like, I truly believe God has given them a plan in their life, whatever it is. If it's the NFL, I hope it works out for them. If it's to be the best musician in the world, I pray that works out for them. If it's to go on podcasts one day and talk about their experience with type 1 and it's impacting other type 1 diabetics who are younger than them as they get older, I pray that's what God called them to do. And for me, I don't look at it as pressure. It's just kind of one of those things where I feel like God blessed me with type 1 to make an impact in their lives so that when they get older, they realize that, they've lived with it this long. They've gone through this, kind of these obstacles in their life. They've had success doing, certain things, and they can make that same impact for the next generation. I think that's really the goal that I've had. And like I said, I truly believe it was a blessing that I got it. I think when I was in the hospital it was like 4 or 5 days that I was in it. It's like, man, like, I can't eat as many carbs. I got to watch what I'm eating. There's, I got to give myself injections all the time. And there's just a lot of doubt. And that was at the beginning of my freshman year of college.
That's what I was going to say. You're literally just getting to Duke when that happens?
Yeah. So I played my whole football season my freshman year. And when I got to Duke, we did all these like tests and stuff like that for blood sugar and all these other, it's like a big physical. They want to make sure we're healthy before we start the season. And apparently it was at like 150. And when I was diagnosed I think it was January, they basically told me that we had this down from your tests over the summer, but we just thought you were, one, like anxious and nervous that you just got to college.
Yeah.
And then 2, you had just eaten lunch when we did the test, and my mom's like, yeah, that's also like, it's also kind of a pre-diabetes number. I can't believe they didn't do weren't more concerned about a 150 blood sugar for a kid who's in college.
Yeah.
But it's all good. I played the whole season, and there was definitely times where it was really tough. And I like to pride myself on being a more in shape guy. I work really hard. And I think as the year went on, I was struggling with just like staying in shape. Like, I'd get tired really easily in practice. I was getting tired as the day went on. And then the big symptoms didn't really kick in until when I came back from my second semester after our winter Christmas break, where, I lost eyesight. I was losing weight. I had like acne all over my body, which I've never had like that much acne before. I mean, I know I'm 18 years old, but all these symptoms started kind of kicking in over like a 2 to 3 week span. And then I was diagnosed in January after my freshman football season. And then looking back on it, I'm like, man, there were so many signs.
Can you put yourself back in that place? Do you remember what you felt like was happening? Because you're pretty far from home. Am I right? You're from Mass?
Yes. Yeah.
So you're pretty far from home and by yourself. And I would imagine prior to that, pretty excited. Like, I'm going to Duke to play football. Things are going well. When your health starts to tumble at 18, do you have the wherewithal to wonder about it, or do you just keep pushing?
I just kept it pushing.
Yeah.
I hadn't had anything really serious, like health-wise, that had happened in my life, especially not like gradually. Like I lacerated my spleen freshman year of high school, and that was probably the real big one that I had. But like nothing that was kind of like a gradual like lead up to something. So like symptoms like that, it was very like foreign to me. like when I was lifting, I would have a full body cramp and then I couldn't lift as much weight. And I literally probably took like a week off and like, our weightlifting coaches like, what's going on? Like,
Yeah.
basically out of shape. And they made me go lift with one of the kickers at the time for one session because I couldn't put more than like 135 pounds on my back to squat. I just couldn't do it.
Right.
For me, I'm like, I just got to work hard. Like it had nothing to do with like, my health is declining. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When I got really concerned though, was my vision, because I've always had fine vision. It's never been a concern for me. I've never worn glasses or contacts. And then all of a sudden, like I woke up and I couldn't see anything. Yeah. And then I'm in class and we got this massive projector screen and, that our professor's using. And I'm literally taking photos with my phone, zooming in so I can take notes on my computer.
Right.
I catch footballs for a living. So it's like, why is my vision going? And I think that was the last straw that I had to go back in there, because I would go in with a new symptom. They would just kind of give me like kind of basically a Band-Aid to put over it. And they weren't really doing, but it was like every few days I would go in with like a new symptom. It was like, hey, I can't keep weight on. Hey, I'm full body cramp. Hey, I'm just drinking all the time. And then I was like, dude, I'm losing my eyesight. So one of our trainers was like, hey, like, let's just go get you an eye exam. So it was always just kind of like trying to find a solution for the next symptom I had.
Yeah.
So like for me, it was just like, I just got to keep pushing on. And then our head athletic trainer, who has type 2 diabetes. So obviously when his blood, it's different, but when their blood sugar is high, like symptoms are pretty similar. So he's been through that. He was like, hey, he was just kind of overhearing me talk to the other athletic trainer. And he's like, hey, like, let me check your blood sugar. Took out his blood sugar reader, pricked my finger. And then I think on the reader, like the highest you could go was like 650. And literally the thing just said high.
Just high. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was just crazy. Like that's when that happened, I'm like, I have no idea like what's going on still. Even when I was in the hospital, it's like, I had no idea until they literally told me that it was probably type 1.
Yeah. So then do your parents come down to be with you at the hospital? Like, how do you manage that when you're in the hospital?
Yeah, my mom came down. She found out about it. They both work. So it took them like a day or two to get down there. Yeah. But like I was in good hands. Like my head athletic trainer was phenomenal. He stayed with me a lot of the time. His name's Havzar over at Duke. Beth Miller, who's a nutritionist at Duke, she was a huge impact on the beginning stages of my diagnosis. So, I was in great hands and, I was probably in a place where I didn't really want to see a whole lot of people, including my family, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But it was really nice because they moved down to North Carolina when I moved to Duke.
Oh, okay.
And they probably lived, an hour and 45, 2 hours away from me.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. So they came over to the hospital and it was nice to see my mom around then, kind of when I had everything figured out. Because in the beginning, it's just like, it's chaos. Like you're on an insulin drip, trying to get your blood sugar down slowly. You're trying to figure out eating and you're finally feeling normal again after that whole situation. I think my blood sugar when I went in the hospital was 950. Mm-hmm. And the doctors kind of said like, because when you get that high, like DKA. There's a chance that you could, DKA. I didn't have that, fortunately. And then some people can just end up going into a coma, depending on the circumstance. And fortunately, that didn't happen. But when my mom got there, everything kind of settled down and, I was in a little better headspace.
Can I ask you, were you a prospect in college, like a draft prospect going in? I'm trying to figure out what you felt like you might be losing at that moment when you get diagnosed.
Yeah. So that kind of goes back to like when I said I had a really good support staff, like Hap and Beth, pretty much like as soon as it happened and they told me, the first thing they said is like, hey, we just got to manage it well. And if you can manage it well, you're still going to be able to play. Mm-hmm. And I think that gave me a huge like relief. Like they were just like, hey, it's going to be nutrition. It's going to be exercise. It's going to be putting in the right doses of insulin. And it's like, you'll still be able to play. Like, trust me, we know people like this. I think Mark Andrews was very outspoken about it. So like he had brought up Mark when I was in college. And so like, there's a lot of confidence that I was able to receive.
Right.
Some other people might not necessarily get that confidence. Why I work with a lot of younger type 1 diabetics, mostly adolescents, because a lot of the time they're in the hospital and they don't have a Hap or a Beth Miller that's basically right off the bat like, hey, this is going to work for you. You just have like a doctor telling you got type 1. Their family has no idea what that means. They've never had type 1, or maybe they have. They may have seen it really negatively affecting a family member. And like, there's just a whole lot going on. And I think I was very, very blessed to have Hap and Beth basically like right out the gate. It's like, hey, you have this, but you're still going to be able to play, and from that, when they told me that, I think the the worry and the stress started to go down a lot faster than I think if I was really dwelling on it. No one told me that right off the bat.
Yeah, I know you don't know who I am, but this whole podcast has been around for a decade, and it's incredibly popular because I talk to people about how to use insulin and just give them the reality of their situation so that they have the right tools and the right understanding so they can make good decisions for themselves. And that sounds like what you got on day one. That is incredibly lucky because most people do not get that at all.
Yeah, I was extremely blessed and I recognize that, so that's shout awesome. Out to Hap and Beth. They helped me out so much in the beginning process and learning what they told me. That's one of the first things I try to tell all the, adolescent kids that I work with, that they will be able to achieve the goals and the dreams that they have. But it starts with great management and, working with your healthcare provider or working with people who help you with your pump, insulin therapy, whatever your insulin therapy is, working with your athletic coaches, your exercise, your athletic trainers. It's all super, super important and super helpful to, for the beginning of your journey.
Yeah. How did you start off? Did they start you with a pen? Did they get you a pump right away? Did you have a CGM? Do you recall? My Diabetes Pro Tip series is about cutting through the clutter of diabetes management to give you the straightforward, practical insights that truly make a difference. This series is all about mastering the fundamentals, whether it's the basics of insulin, dosing adjustments, or everyday management strategies that will empower you to take control. I'm joined by Jenny Smith, who is a diabetes educator with over 35 years of personal experience, and we break down complex concepts into simple, actionable tips. The Diabetes Pro Tip series runs between episode 1000 and 1025 in your podcast player, where you can listen to it at juiceboxpodcast.com by going up into the menu.
Pens. I was on pens for the longest time. I was so afraid of the pumps basically being attached to me, tubing, or just being too big. So I started with the pens and it worked for me. And I also was doing finger pricks for probably a little longer than I needed to be. If I recommend anything to anybody, it's like the CGM out the bat. You know what I mean? I didn't realize how much of a game changer that is. And also, like, there's so many ways to wear your CGM that isn't going to inhibit you from, doing your day-to-day activities. I can understand being a little weary of like the insulin pump therapy just because there's a lot that goes into it and the technology is just crazy with it, which is awesome. It's a great thing.
You can see how like a pump might scare somebody, but the CGM is like a no-brainer, right? Like,
no-brainer, yeah. And I don't know why it took me so long to get on it, just because they're so small and like they're just really, it's just, and it's a great thing to have overnight. Like I would go overnight. Like if I look at my pump now and I eat before I go to bed, it's like I will see how it can rise into the 200s and it'll kind of stay there for a little bit and then it'll drop. So like before, when I didn't have that data, it's like I'd go to bed, it'd be 100, I'd wake up, it'd be 90. And I'm like, oh, my blood sugar is 100% in range all day long.
You and I had the same experience, man. Well, I used to put my daughter, so my daughter was diagnosed when she was 2, man. She was like 18 pounds.
Yeah.
And I'd put her to bed at like 180 and she'd wake up at 90. And I thought, I'm so good at this.
Yeah.
And then one day we got a CGM and it turns out she'd go to bed at 180. She'd go down to like 55, sit there for hours. And then I think her liver would kick in and pull her back up again. I never would have known that,
Yeah.
I have a question here from a kid. He wants to know if it hurts to get hit on your CGM.
It doesn't. No.
Okay.
And that surprised me too, because, I've had it ripped out in football when I was wearing it on my arm, which is a big reason why I moved it to the spot that it does, but doesn't hurt at all. And like, if it does come out, it's not like it's going to re-stab you. It's a pretty flimsy little needle at the end. So it's money.
Well, I have a couple more questions, but let me, I'll jump to a fun one. There's a father in the group that wants to know, when's the first time you got your bell rung and you knew it was like a different level?
Like in the NFL or like just playing football my whole life?
I don't know. Who hit, do you know the guy's name? Like that's, I guess what like when it jumped up, do you know who caught you?
I don't know the name. I think like the first time I got my bell rung though was when I was really little.
Oh, no kidding. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, that's the first time I realized like, hey, like this isn't just like a leisure sport. Like I got a head on a swivel all the time. And, kids are out here and they're trying to play ball and some kids like hitting more than others.
Yeah.
I think that for me, like there's some just really fast, explosive kids that they could catch you.
Yeah.
And then in the NFL, I mean, there's been a handful of guys that have really kind of, got out. It's a couple of linebackers. Jeff Okuda, who's a cornerback for Houston last year, he got me pretty good. in a game. So there's definitely been a handful of times where, I'll catch the ball and I'll think I'm, open to run. And the next thing you know, there's a dude just crashing down on me. So
Yeah.
definitely always keeping your head on a swivel in the sport.
Yeah, it's crazy. I genuinely can't imagine. I mean, the difference between you're 40 pounds and 4 inches bigger than most guys, right? Like, that's about it, right?
Yeah. I mean, compared to like safeties and DBs, probably, I got a pretty big size advantage. But man, those guys are explosive and fast. And it's like some of those guys can hit harder than some of the linebackers just because of how explosive they are.
Flying around. Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So, okay. So you get yourself a pen, you eventually move to a pump. Do you remember what your first pump was?
I think I used Omnipod, and then I switched over to Tandem. And I was on the Tandem T-Slim for a couple of years before I just switched over to the Tandem Mobi pump.
Oh, you're using the Mobi now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Did you update the software to the Control IQ Plus?
I did. I actually did it a couple of days ago, and I'm really excited to kind of learn about the new IQ Plus technology. I'm not super well versed in it, but I know it has a little bit to do with like the temp basal rates, and I'm excited to kind of explore that and, kind of have that be utilized in my pump therapy. But using, an insulin pump changed the game for me. And like we said earlier, it's something that I definitely understand people being a little bit worried about, especially as an athlete, just because of like it getting grabbed and, it coming off and someone damaging it. But fortunately, I feel like I've come up with a pretty good system. I have it in the locker room with me. The biggest thing I'll say in terms of like our therapy is being as consistent as possible, especially before games when you're managing your diabetes and trying to stay away from those low blood sugars. And then my pump is kind of just there as like a guide, something to kind of help me through that because I'm not wearing it as much. Once I'm in the game, I can't wear my pump, which, may seem scary to some people. And I got some methods to kind of, work that, but it's always close by. And I try to get my blood sugar at like 100, like 50 to like 180 range before a game. I'll eat the same foods. It's chicken, rice, and vegetables. I eat that about 3.5 hours before the game. And then I'll kind of eat some other snacks leading up to the game to kind of keep that energy going and then still have my insulin pump on until right before the game. But it's consistency and it stinks. And I always recommend it to kids because it's like, look, the best way to keep you from going super low and super high is being as consistent as possible with what you're eating before your games. And it's like after the game's over, go crazy, go have fun, go have some cake, ice cream, be a kid. You know what I mean? But like to really hone in and make sure you're getting your blood sugar exactly where it needs to be. Try to be as consistent as possible with what you're eating and what time you're eating. And it may not be chicken, rice, and veggies. It could be
whatever works,
watermelon, anything, like whatever it is that gets you to the range that makes you feel good. Be as consistent as possible with that. And really throughout the week, like having an insulin pump with me, especially the Mobi, it's the best. Like I absolutely love that Tandem Mobi. They have these tubes that are really, really short. And I know some people are really worried about tubing on their pump, but like for me, it's made a huge difference because I'm never worried about the tube or like insulin not coming out of it. I usually put like the cannula insertion area right near my waistband. So it's like I clip it into my shorts and then I it's literally like, I don't know, like a 4-inch tube and it's right there.
Right.
So it's not super long to get caught on stuff, which is a great feature about Tandem. And then if you're wearing like suits or like you want it to be kind of more one and less of like a long string tube, they also have these like adhesive patches that you can slip the Mobi into. And the Mobi's it's not big at all. It's like it's the smallest pump I've ever used.
Okay.
A lot smaller than the T-Slim that I was on. And you can literally like attach the adhesive to your side right next to the insertion site. And then the tube will just kind of lay flat on your skin usually. And it feels like it's kind of like not there. And you can like tuck in your shirts, your dress shirts, whatever it is. Maybe if you're playing sports and you want to have your pump on you while you're playing, it'll stay right there and you don't have to clip it into your shorts. So that's like one of my favorite things about it when I got to go to an event and I can just literally put the adhesive on. Yeah.
So you can wear it on your body or clip it to your clothing.
Yes. And they also come, it's not just a 4-inch tubing too. Like they have longer tubings. Like it really just depends on where people are putting the cannulas on their body. And I just think it's very versatile in that regard. Like you can do a lot of things depending on the situation and, where you put your cannula. I think some people might put their cannula in their arms. Like for me, it's always in my stomach. Some people put in their legs or their butt cheek. Like whatever it is and how long you need that tubing to be, I think it's perfect for it. I just feel like it's very consistent. It's a very consistent pump with just like a short tubing and the pump itself being so small. Like, I can just replace the cannula and I don't have to worry about replacing the entire pump if something goes wrong, which I absolutely love about the device.
Have you gotten low during a game? And if so, how did you know?
I've never had like a severe low during the game, but been very, very fortunate. I'm very fortunate in the fact that I can feel when it's starting to tank. I feel it very quickly and I'll go get gummies. Sometimes, most of the time when I will feel it is if we're going into overtime. So I feel like I've got the system down for a good 3.5 hour game. But when it goes longer, I always go to my athletic trainer because I kind of feel that energy level start to go down. So I know my blood sugar is going down. I'll be like, hey, can I get a couple gummies, please?
Yeah.
So I'll just take a couple of Stingers gummies or like Welch's gummies are great as well. Those are two kinds of ways that I get my blood sugar back up. And I'll just rip one of those before overtime starts. And I'll kind of feel that energy, like that last burst of energy that I got because I haven't eaten in a while. I haven't eaten a full meal probably in 6-7 hours probably at that point because my pregame meal was about 3.5 hours before.
Okay.
Which another thing to being consistent with your pregame meals, like mine's 3.5 hours before just because that's how our schedule is in the NFL. Mm-hmm. We get on the buses about 3 hours before the game. But that's another thing you play with. Like, do I eat my full meal an hour before? Do I eat it 2 hours before, hour and a half, 30 minutes before? Like, the crazy thing about diabetes is it's not one size fits all for everybody. Kids are going through puberty. Adults have already maxed out. Some adults are bigger than others. Some people aren't exercising as much as others. So like diabetes it reacts differently depending on the situation that you're in. So for the timing that you eat your meal before the game, it may be different than like between a 12-year-old and an 18-year-old.
Sure.
So it's really just kind of trial and error and trying to find that exact time and that meal that is going to work perfectly for you. And as you get older and as puberty starts to level out and you're becoming an adult, like that time may change for you. But that's why I really just want to stress, like really kind of working trial and error of like finding what works best for you, what time works best for you for that meal. Mm-hmm. It's going to help you get your blood sugar in the area that you need it to be as successful as possible to prevent those lows from happening. I found that I was going low more often before practice and stuff when I would eat at a different time and I would eat a different meal because it's unpredictable. Like you're having different carbs, you're doing different things. And that's why I try to keep it as consistent as possible before those.
It's perfect for you because 3.5 hours, like most of your active insulin should be gone once your activity starts. And that's what you want is this little active insulin as possible while you're moving. I was going to ask you, like in the off season, I mean, maybe your workout schedule stays pretty consistent, but do you see like a need for more insulin in the off season than you do while you're playing, or is it just pretty consistent?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And I work pretty hard even in the off season, but I do take 3 weeks off where like I'm not working even close to it. It's just a good week, 3 weeks of just kind of getting my mind off of football and also just doing less activity. Like I'll still go on walks. I'll play pickleball. I'll play golf, still being active, but it's way less than when I am in season or I'm in my hard off season training. So I do see myself having to take a lot more insulin and my blood sugars being a little bit higher because I'm not exercising as much.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I try to stress to a lot of people, like the value of exercise. We can talk about insulin therapy and we can talk about different foods and we can talk about all this stuff all we want. But the value of exercise is so important. And it doesn't even need to be like legit, like NFL exercise and maybe doing something 2 hours a day. Like it could be something as little as going for a mile, 2 mile, 3 mile walks, literally just a walk. After you eat, lunch or dinner or whatever it is, just doing something because doing stuff really helps out. I think helps manage your blood sugar so much better. And it doesn't have to be so much. If that's lifting weights and progressing and getting bigger, strong, that's great. You know what I mean? If it's going to the park and playing a little tennis with your friends, that's great too. But just doing something, I think really helps with your management of your diabetes. And it's just something that like you can just naturally do that doesn't involve all the technology and all. Like it's literally like, hey, I just ate dinner. I'm going to go for a 2 mile walk with my family. And I think it helps out so much when managing your blood sugar.
Yeah, you're 100% right. Adrenaline hits people differently. Some people spike from it. Some people crash from it. Do you have an impact?
I'm a spiker for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's crazy because like I said, it's not like diabetes isn't one size fits all. You know what I mean? And like some games, like I'm fine, but like other games, I'll go in the locker room and I'm just like 250, 300, and it's just like, man, like where did this come from? I ate exactly how I did.
Yeah.
But that's like another factor that comes into it. It's like, all right, I still have my same regime. I've done the same things, but now my blood sugar is 300 because maybe the game's a little bit more stressful, got a little more anxiety about it. And, it definitely, it changed. It depends on the game.
Is there a number for which you see your foot speed slow or your action slow? Do you slow down at a higher blood sugar?
I've honestly never really noticed it. Like I've played games where I'm at like 250 and I'm feeling fine.
Yeah.
But I have talked to people that it makes them feel really lethargic. And usually like when I'm in my off season where I'm not doing a whole lot and my blood sugar is spiked like that, I feel super, super lethargic. So I think like and that's another thing why I bring up the exercise. Like the more you exercise, I feel like the more energy you kind of have. And it kind of helps when the blood sugar really starts spiking. That's one thing. Like when I was diagnosed and I was at 950 in the hospital, they were like, we don't know how you kind of just walked in here and you looked as good as you did, but we think it's because like I was in a college football program. I was lifting and running routes like every day. I was doing something every day.
Yeah.
They were like, we think like because of how much you were exercising, that's kind of why you were able to walk in here looking as good as you did.
Did you not lose weight before your diagnosis?
I did. I lost probably like 15, no, almost like 10, 15 pounds or something like that. Yeah.
That I imagine was disturbing.
Oh, very.
Yeah.
I had no idea what was going on. Like it was like a symptom after another every few days. And, losing weight at a tight end position, trying to block guys at the college level is not easy to do. So like when that started to go and then my strength was going, I'm like, I can't lose weight and lose my strength. Like we got to keep one or the other here. Yeah.
Is there someone on the sideline watching your blood sugar for you during a game?
No, I'm a little different. I know some other guys I've seen that they're constantly checking it. Like I said, I go based off feel, and my high blood sugars aren't as much of an issue. And I've never seen it get above like 300. That's fine. Like I'm really mostly worried about the lows, and because I'm eating the same thing every game and I know it's going in my body.
Yeah.
There really should be no reason for it to get ever above 300 if my adrenaline kicks in and stuff. And I'll check it at halftime because there are some times I'll kind of feel a little off, a little bit lethargic in the head. So that's kind of when I will go in at halftime and check it. But honestly, like most of the game, I'm just rolling. I'm just focused on the game. And that's why I try to stay as consistent as possible with, what I'm eating and what time I do before. So I don't have to worry about it as much.
Yeah. Your pre-planning is what's doing it for you. Yeah, 100%.
And that's not like, for me, that works. And I tell everybody, but some other people, like you need to have someone, having your Dexcom and looking at it and making sure, because some other people might not feel the lows come on as quickly. Some other people feel super lethargic, obviously when they're high.
Right.
So just having someone to like check it, or maybe it's just finger pricks when you're on the sideline, if you don't have access to your Dexcom because the connection's too far away from your phone and your Bluetooth. Like I said, it's not one size fits all. It's really a huge trial and error. But once you find out what works for you, just stick with it, man. I know it stinks. It stinks to have to eat the same foods before a game. Like it's not fun eating chicken rice
every time.
It's not fun at all. Like no kid wants to do that either. Like kids want to eat what they want to eat. Some kids are obviously more picky than others. Like it's just not fun. But it's just like in order to stay out there and be as consistent as you possibly can,
what you need to do.
Yeah, you need to do it.
Yeah. I imagine it would be less fun to raise your hand and go, Coach Reed, I can't play anymore. I'm dizzy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think you're looking for that. Right. So,
which is another thing. Like, it's kind of tragic when I talk to kids because it's like, they ask, like, what do you do when it does go low? And I'm like, look, there should be no shame in it. Right. Like, there's absolutely no shame in having to sit out and talk to and be like, hey, I need sugar. I need a juice box. I need Gatorade, whatever your way of getting your blood sugar up. There's no shame in that. But I'm like, look, the reality is, and it may seem a little harsh, but it's just the reality. Like when I was entering the NFL, every single team that I asked or talked to, interviewed with, they all asked about my management because they got to invest in me, right? They got to know my management's good. Everyone that they talk to is like, hey, how's his blood sugar? How's he do in practice? Is he missing a lot of practice time? Because at the end of the day, like if I'm a guy and like I can't stay on the field, my value goes way down. Like they can't depend on me. And it sounds harsh to say and it stinks. That's the reality of it. But that's why I've taken so much pride in trying to keep it as consistent as possible. So I'm lowering the amount of chances that I'm like, hey, like I need to sit out. And like, there are situations where I'm asking for gummies and I need to take like a couple seconds. Like that's all good.
Yeah.
And that should always be good. And you should feel no shame about that. But that's why I always just really try to encourage like a solution to it. Like, let's try to be consistent. Let's do this so that, nobody is going to use your diagnosis and you being a diabetic against you. Like, oh, we can't play him as much, or, hey, we got to monitor him. We should probably start this kid over him because he's, in the middle of a drive, he might not be there. And it's the harsh reality, but it's what we have to live with. It's what we have to do. And, that's kind of, where I've kind of stood on that. And
you'd like this podcast, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
The way we talk about it here, you would like it. Do you ever have this feeling of like you said, a few guys, right? Like text chain? Do you if you play each other, do you look across the field and you nod, or is it not a thing that comes up all the time? Because everybody's asking do you look over at Mark Andrews and think guy's got diabetes like me, or are you just playing football?
In the middle of the game, we're just playing ball. But after the game, I've talked to Chad and I've talked to Blake, and those guys are phenomenal guys. I love those dudes. Just the nicest, salt of the earth type people. So when it's over, I've jersey swapped with Chad. Actually, it's one of my favorite jerseys. They're in their teal jerseys and just look so good. I got it back at my house, and just great guys. And it's cool to talk with them. And I've actually kind of bounced ideas back and forth with Chad, literally going up the tunnel for a game that we played the Jaguars one year. And it's just cool to really connect with. It's good to have a community. You know what I mean?
For sure.
I know for my mom, she was in this Facebook group of diabetic moms, and it was just encouraging for her to be able to be like, hey, my son's dealing with this. What's worked for y'all? You know what I mean? It's kind of the same thing for us. If there is something major, I know that those guys would have no problem reaching out to me or me reaching out to them, or after a game, we're just kind of talking about life and, how all that stuff's going. But those guys are, phenomenal. But definitely when we're in games, those guys, Blake's, worried about getting that snap money, and Chad's like, hey man, I got to tackle this guy. I got to make the right reads. You know what I mean? Right. So definitely not thinking about it, but sometimes I'm on the punt return team and I'll look at Blake and they'll just be like, oh man, this is pretty cool. I'm going to try to knock this other diabetic, on his butt.
See if I can get him.
You know what I mean? Yeah, it's all good. It's all fun. And those guys are phenomenal. I just love the fact that we're able to compete against each other.
That's awesome. Let me hit a couple of these questions from people, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
So you went over a lot. You did such a good job. I was like, I could just let him go. He's really hitting everything.
I get excited, man. It's my life.
I was going to say, you were really you're jacked up about it. Listen, fairness, I've interviewed a lot of people and a lot of professional athletes, and I've gotten the vibe from some of them. They're like, I don't know, the guy takes care of it. And you're not like that. It's really refreshing to talk to you. Actually, you know a lot about your diabetes, and it's really cool. This question's more about the mental side of it. It's from a young kid who wants to know how you handle struggle days, like the mental side of diabetes.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a big man of faith, and I'd really try to put all of my stressors and things on my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. I just think that, it's a lot bigger than I am. And there's a lot of days where it can absolutely be tough. You know what I mean? And my Lord and Savior is a part of my support staff. My wife is a huge part of my support staff, family members, friends. And I just think really leaning on those, what your support staff is in life. You know what I mean? If it's Christ, man, prayer, you know what I mean? If it's your family, man, just really being open and talking to them about it. I know when I was first diagnosed, my mom was just it's never happened to us. We don't have family history of it. So she was all jacked up, and she's I sent her my Dexcom. She's seeing my numbers. She's texting me if I'm low. And it's just, for me, it's a little overwhelming because she's just always asking me questions. But we got to realize about your support staff is they all love you. Jesus loves you. Your mom loves you. Your dad loves you. Your coach loves you. Your friends love you. Whoever's they love you and they want to see you succeed. And just never be afraid to go to your support staff for help and really just lean on them, because I truly they're going to help you, and they want to help you, and they want to see you reach your goals. And there's definitely days, even to this day, that I could be struggling with multiple lows in the same day, and it's I'm just not feeling good all day long. And it's just leaning on those people it helps you realize that everything's going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
You have diabetes for a reason. That's why I thank God every day I was blessed with this disease. You know, it was tough at first, but it's like now it switches from like, man, this is tough. Boo me, boo this. And now it's like, how is God using this in my life to impact other people? And that's why I love talking with, adolescents about their management and trying to make them feel just a little bit more confident when they're walking around school, when they're walking around, jazz band class, when they're going into football practice, like, allowing them to feel even more confident, because there's going to be more generations of type 1s to come. And the fact that they can grow up, feel confident about their management and the things that they've been doing right about it.
Yeah.
And then they can pass that down to the next generation is just super, super, just an incredible thing that you can do for a lot of people.
I got to tell you, man, you almost made me cry. So listen, I started this podcast 11 years ago because I recognized that I had a system. It was keeping my daughter's A1C super stable, keeping her spikes down, like all this stuff. And then one day I said to my wife, I'm like, I have a thing. Like, I don't call it anything. It doesn't have a name, but like, I know if I do these things, this is the outcome. And so you launch the podcast just thinking like, well, maybe it'll help somebody. And 11 years later, it's got 20 million downloads. And my Facebook group for this podcast has 64,000 active people in it who are honestly just your mom, like just people in there just trying to help each other, And I didn't imagine any of that when I started it, or how good it feels to see somebody do well because of something you were able to show them or share with them or something like that. It really fills you up. It really does. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. And it's really cool to hear that you've been doing it for 11 years. And like, your impact on people could vary. Like me, it's on the football field and talking with like type 1s. Yours is this podcast and the platform you have here. And it looks so different for a variety of people, but it shows, and like, it makes a huge impact. So whatever people are doing, man, just keep spreading that love for it. Keep spreading that awareness for it, because you never know who's watching, who's listening. And it really makes a huge impact on so many people's lives that you never thought could have ever reached.
I mean, to your point, like, I know you and I talked at the beginning a little bit. Like, I grew up in Philly. Like, I'm an Eagles fan. I have been my whole life. Every time you walk across my TV screen, I think, that man's got type 1. Like, I stop and I look and I go, I hope that guy catches a ball. You know what I mean? Like, there's like a connection for a half a second. Mark Andrews dropped that ball in the playoffs, and I don't know him or care about the Ravens at all. And I was like, it felt like somebody I knew had a bad moment. I don't know if that makes sense or not.
It does. And the type 1 community is such a tight-knit community because it's just so niche. Like, it's really not a huge community. There's a lot of us, don't get me wrong, but relative to it's not a huge, population community. So like, when you see other people with it, it's like, like, I met my best friend. He was in my wedding party like a year and a half after I met him. And he was helping me move into my apartment my rookie year. And I literally was walk out the door, and I saw a CGM on the back of his arm. And I was like, in my head, I'm like, man, really nice guy. Helped me move in my apartment. Might see him because he lives around here, but that's it. I was like, hey man, like, and I like to mess with people sometimes. I was like, oh dude, like, you got diabetes. And then like, kind of like joke with them. Like, like kind of make fun of them a little bit. I'm like, nah, dude, I got it too. Like, here's my pump. And then like, from then on, like, we just kicked it off. Like, we've been best friends like ever since, you know what I mean? Yeah. And so it's a really niche community, and like, everybody's looking out for one another. Like, we all want to see everybody succeed. Like, I've never met like a jealous type 1, or like, if someone's doing something and they're managing it really well, the other type 1 who may not be managing well, who's having more lows, who's struggling more mentally day in, day out, like, they're never jealous of the one managing it. Like, they're just like, they want to ask questions. They want to learn. They want to build that relationship with them so that they can manage it like. And I think that's just the beauty of it. It's just like, everyone is trying to help each other because we have the common goal of keeping our blood sugars in range and doing the best we possibly can to reach the goals that we have in our lives. And that's the one thing that's always stood out to me about this community, is just how much people care and they love each other. There's no jealousy. There's no envy. It's like, it's all love. It's all, man, how can we help each other be the best type 1s and manage this dang disease the best that we possibly can? And I think that's just the beauty of it.
Yeah, it's incredibly unique too, because you kind of don't see it around other disease states the way you do around type 1. I think it has something to do with how hard it is, like with what diabetes is. You know what I mean? Like, you can really look at another person and say, I know what your life is like.
Yeah.
And you know how important it is for someone to, I want to say, see you in that way, but to really genuinely understand you. Because I'll hear some people say sometimes, like, I don't want to like explain it to somebody. because they're not going to get it. You know what I mean? And I don't want to go through all that just to have them not understand, but to meet somebody who understands, what a big deal that is. Like, I mean, honestly,
absolutely.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, man, I really do. Let's see. Did you play any other sports as a kid?
Basketball, baseball, I stopped when I was in 5th grade because I wanted to play AAU basketball, which is in the spring.
Okay. All right. So you liked baseball, but
yeah, it's just like I think basketball, I just had more fun in it. So yeah, that's kind of why I chose to play basketball over baseball. But then I played basketball in high school as well. And then it kind of morphed into like, I'm going to be a football player and I probably should focus on this a little bit more. So, yeah.
You were a little behind. The MLB really switched to bigger guys. You could have been there at one point. Like all of a sudden they were like, bigger's better.
Yeah.
How much of the focus that it takes to make it to where you are? I feel like I'm hearing you say that like you've transferred it over to your type 1. I'm wondering what you've learned from type 1. Has anything from that come back and helped you professionally?
Yeah. I mean, like managing it, you have to be very strict and detail oriented. It's just like your regimen, and football is a regimen sports. Like I wake up, I go eat breakfast, and I'm in meetings. I'm in meetings for 2.5, 3 hours long, and then a walkthrough. I truly believe it's helped me mature a lot. Like before I was diagnosed, I would eat pizza. I was just doing whatever I wanted. This is before I had diabetes. And like, I didn't feel good. Like, it's just like I'd go out, feel lethargic at practice.
Yeah.
When I get diabetes, it's like, all right, like I got to eat this to keep my blood sugar in this range and this range. So I'm actually naturally just eating healthier because I can't have like all these pizza carbs and all these bad carbs that I'm utilizing in my body. Like my meals are more well-rounded. I started feeling like really good energy levels, and I'm starting to go out to practice and feel really good energy levels in practice and in class. And I'm able to sustain that energy throughout the day. So like it's helped me in terms of like my eating habits and feeling good, but also like I'm having to make sure I'm taking insulin. I'm checking my blood sugar. I'm this. And I think it's helped me, take that and then that preparation that I'm using for diabetes and I put it into football. And when I was in college, it was even harder because it's like I had classes and I had football. You got to balance both. And I tell young kids all the time, it's like, you don't realize how much this disease is actually maturing you. Like you are growing up and you're basically like having to make grown-up decisions. Like it's life or death. Right. Diabetes is life or death. You take too much insulin and you don't realize it. Next thing you know, you're passed out. You know what I mean? You don't take enough insulin, your blood sugar's skyrocketing, then you're in DK. Like it is life or death. And these kids don't realize like how much this is actually maturing them and how much more mature they are than a lot of their other classmates in 3rd, 4th, 5th grade. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. And I think for me, I felt that same way where I was very immature, like eating whatever I wanted, doing whatever I wanted. I could just kind of go off what I was feeling that day to, okay, we have a regimen. We're going to stick to that regimen. And then this is also ending up translating into my day-to-day activities, which is football, school, life.
I think it's possible that you're lucky where you were because, I mean, I've interviewed thousands of people and very frequently the story is, I didn't really take great care of it until a thing happened. Like until I decided I wanted to have a baby or I was getting married. Or a lot of people do it for other people too. Like it's harder to do things for yourself sometimes, but it occurs to me that you were in the middle of a thing you already had to do for yourself. Like, and so you probably got fast forwarded to that, like, oh, I have to take care of this moment. Like, soon, like, you know what I mean? Like if you were just at home in community college messing around thinking you might go work in a garage somewhere one day, like you might have ignored it too. It's a lot of good luck for you actually in there.
No, it's tremendous luck. And the fact that I was in football when it happened, like I had to make sure my blood sugars were right so that I wasn't missing football. And I didn't become a Christian until I got to the NFL, but like I truly believe God has a plan and a purpose in all our lives. And I just really hope that every type 1, like that's what they see. It's like God has a plan and a purpose for your life, no matter where you are in life, what you're doing. Like God loves you and God wants to see you succeed. He wants to see you thrive and he wants to see you make an impact on other people. And, I just encourage people, man, realize you have a platform, you can make an impact and, God and your family members, everyone wants to see you succeed and be successful. And so never, and that's why don't let a single moment just like realize, be where your feet are, realize that there's people and God loves you.
People to help.
And they all want to see you succeed and thrive, regardless of where you are.
Yeah.
So just manage it the best that you can from day one. And I promise you, it's going to change your life and so many other people's lives.
Surround yourself with good people. Well, speaking of that, you mentioned you got married. Is that fairly recent?
I got married. It'll be 3 years this July.
Congratulations. That's lovely.
Thank you. How long have you been married for?
Oh, man, since 96.
Congratulations. That's a blessing. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm almost up on 30 years now. What I was going to ask you is how do you decide when you're dating or serious with somebody how to start, I don't know, sharing your diabetes with them? And then how much do you want from your wife, or do you not want anything from her as far as like day-to-day stuff and understanding goes?
I think day one. Yeah, that's the first thing. Like, not the first thing you tell everybody. Like, there's a lot of things. Like I said, type 1 doesn't define us. You know what I mean? That's why I'm not thinking about it when I'm playing football. But with people who you are seriously considering and really everyone, like, have that conversation. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure that the first time you meet, like, you're going to be eating some kind of food, and like your insulin pack with your manual injections is going to come out, or your pump, or they're going to see your CGM. You know, sometimes I see people, they'll go into the bathrooms, and it breaks my heart that, you know, they feel like they have to do that. And that's just another, you know, reason to encourage people to just be a little bit more bold with it. But it's nothing that you should feel ashamed of. And, you know, if people are afraid of it, or that's just on them. It's their loss. You know what I mean? Like, you can't help what other people think or view. You know what I mean? Like, you just be where your feet are. And like, this is a part of who you are. You know what I mean? When you're going on dates and you're at that restaurant, like, it's going to come up because this is your life. You know what I mean? Like I said, it's literally life or death for you when you're managing this disease. So never feel bad about having that conversation, because at the end of the day, if people want to exit your life because of it, then they probably don't deserve to be in your life. And that's just the reality. And like, I truly believe there's so many, like, my wife is incredible. You know, since day one, she's always been, you know, super understanding. You know, we've had a lot of conversations, I think, because, you know, there's that worry that one of my children, and we have a beautiful little girl, her name's Naomi, and I love her to absolute death. I mean, she is incredible. But like, there's always been that worry. It's like, hey, could this genetically get passed down to one of my kids? You know what I mean? That's just a conversation, a fruitful conversation, you know, that we've had. And Mary and I pray about it so much that, you know, it never happens and stuff like that. But fortunately, I have it. If it were to get passed down to one of my kids, you know what I mean? Like,
you'd know what to do.
I know what to do. And there's a lot of families that don't have, like, it's like my family, we didn't have any family history of it. Neither of my parents had it. Brand new, you know what I mean? And
other autoimmune in your family, like celiac or hypothyroidism or anything like that?
No, not that I know of. I know my aunt, she has an issue with her glucose. Like, she goes extreme hypoglycemic. She has that a lot. And that's the only thing that I've really kind of heard. My family keeps a lot of things hush hush for some reason, and they're not as open about it.
I ask everybody that comes on, and most people are like, I don't know, we don't talk about anything. But like, I've interviewed a ton of people, and you'll find that autoimmune issues can run through families, but it's not always type 1. Sometimes it's RA, or sometimes it's, you know, celiac or something like that. So
yeah, I've never heard of anything in my family, you know, with it. But yeah, it's just really like, the doctors were like, oh, like, I think you got a virus and attacked your pancreas and it shut it down.
Do you remember being sick before you were diagnosed?
I don't. It's been so long ago. But like, it could have, you know, I definitely was. Like, there's been times where I've been down and out pretty bad. And I know that they say like certain viruses can like attack your pancreas, and then it'll just, over time, it'll kind of just shut it down.
Right. My daughter had Coxsackie before her diagnosis.
Really?
The best I understand it is the virus, like, you know, your immune system gets confused at some point. You already have likely autoantibodies, and then eventually your beta cells get it instead of the Coxsackie. Would you test your daughter, like do TrialNet or anything like that, to see if she has autoantibodies when she's old enough, or are you going to just step back and let what happens happen?
Honestly, I've never thought about it. And I know that there are certain studies to like see stuff like that. I wouldn't be opposed to it though. Like, I think like the beauty of modern medicine is I think it's really evolved to really help us manage it. You know what I mean? And before, you know, years ago, it's like diabetes was a life sentence. And then it became like, okay, now you can live a little bit longer. And then like, now it's like, hey, like, if you really manage this extremely well, which I think can sometimes be a misconception about diabetes, is that like your life expectancy will for sure be shortened.
Yeah.
But it's like, if you manage it really well, like, you can live a long, healthy, full life. if you're managing it super well. And that's the beauty of modern medicine. And that's the beauty of something like that, to where you could get an idea and understanding before. And maybe if they test positive for whatever it is that they're looking for in those tests, like you can learn up, and it may happen, it may not happen, but you have a foundation and an understanding. And maybe you can kind of look up to see like, hey, if this goes down like this, and you can probably prevent like, hey, like once the blood sugar gets here, she's probably pre-diabetic. I mean, I don't know how it works. Like I'm just kind of speaking like hypothetically in my head of how it works.
They look for autoantibodies if there's 5 of them. And if you have a certain number of them over, I think if you have 2 or more, it's likely that you'll get type 1.
Yeah.
But it sounds like it wouldn't scare you to know if it was coming.
Yeah, no. And it's like, I would feel good because like, I'm not going to let my daughter get to 950 where I was at. It'd be like, okay, I like if it does happen and she's likely to get it, it's like, okay, like for her physical, we're making sure we're doing the tests so that we catch it early.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that she doesn't go in as a DKA, I think you mentioned.
Yeah.
But like when your blood sugar gets that high, like we're going to reduce the risk of like the complications that occur from when your blood sugar is super high like that.
That's interesting to see, because some people think of it one way, some people think of it another way. Like I've had, I don't know, you're younger, but like Sam Fold's been on a couple of times.
Oh, I love Sam. I've done some stuff with his
wiffle ball thing, right?
Yeah, he's a baseball player. So it was all virtual because when I first started getting involved, like that was when COVID happened. So I was doing like the virtual, like I'd get on and talk to all the campers. But Sam's the man. I love that dude.
He told me 2 things I'll never forget. So back before all this technology, he said, if I was in the outfield with seeds, my blood sugar was good. And if I was chewing gum, I was low. I was like, oh, that's crazy. And that's how he managed it. Like, and the other thing he told me when I asked him if he was scared to have kids, he said, no, why would I be? Like, it was so not a thing he could even understand. He's like, I have diabetes and I'm fine. Like my kids would be okay if that happened to me, if that happened to them. And I love that. Like, I just thought it was such just a clear-minded answer, Oh,
absolutely. Yeah. And I talk about like, cause my wife doesn't have diabetes. So when I'm talking about those conversations, like really, I'm not like I said, I have it. If my kid were to get it, like I love that I have it. I can help them out with that process as they get older.
Right.
You know what I mean? But like obviously for my wife, it's a little stressful. It can be. Yeah. But like we're planning on, having more kids, and you know what I mean? Like it's not going to stop us or like limit the amount of kids that we would try to have. Yeah. Because it's like Sam said, like they're going to be fine. They're going to be okay. Like they can live a full, happy life, achieving the goals that they have set forth. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's just going to take some management of it and doing well with it.
Like you said, 100 years ago, this would have killed you. And 100 years later, you're on TV throwing men around with one of your hands. So like, it's just, I mean, seriously, if I can pivot to a football question for a second, I'm taken back to like Jason Kelsey did this thing. I don't remember what it was, but he was sitting around with a bunch of guys who were retired. They were playing cards. I don't know if it was on like a special he did or something like that. But it really struck me to watch guys who are not old men. Like, you know what I mean? They're 40 years old and they're so far removed from the thing they've been doing their entire life. And they seemed sad. And like, I wonder how you, like in the middle of doing something so exciting, which is like the thing you've accomplished is, like I said, like it's literally, I actually did the math. It's like 1 in a billion for you specifically. Like it's only like 1 in 10,000 to play one game in the NFL, but to have diabetes, win the Super Bowl, like you're a 1 in a billion person. So I don't imagine that you're thinking about it while you're doing it. I'm sure you're enjoying it and working on it. My son only played college baseball. And at his last college baseball game, I cried. His mom cried. He sat in the middle of the field for 20 minutes and didn't move when it was over. Like, it's such a crazy thing to accomplish knowing it's got such a short lifespan. And I'm wondering if you've ever thought about that. And I mean, maybe you haven't, but.
No, I have. And I think that there's definitely, like I felt like, and it's every year I play, I'm on the closer side of retirement than I am to the beginning of when I played. Yeah. And it's definitely going to be extremely tough for me, but I've come to the realization that, that's just how life goes. You know what I mean? And like God's got, so many different, I think he's got a huge plan for what it's going to be like for me after. And I just rest all of like the stress and anxiety that I have about like the huge, like I've been playing tackle football since I was 6 years old. This has been my entire life. I've only had like one other job outside of playing football. I mean, that's just the reality. Yeah. And there is like going to be this grieving process for when I am done. I know it's going to happen.
Right.
But I also know that through, faith in Christ, that after it's done, there's going to be another section of my life. You know what I mean? I'm still going to have to be Naomi's father. I'm still going to have to be Mary's husband.
Yeah.
I'm going to do something else. Maybe it's coaching. Maybe it's personal coaching, like not at the college or NFL level, but just working with high school tight ends and receivers. Maybe it's being an investment banker. I have no idea, but
Yeah.
I just know that God's going to continue moving in ways that I can't understand right now,
Right.
that I probably won't understand at the time, but just kind of trusting in that and knowing that, like, we're going to be okay. And there's going to be another part of my life that, is going to be impactful.
Yeah. That's awesome. I mean, Duke's not a gimme degree. What did you go for?
I was a political science degree.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think about because I mean, at this point, everybody just wants to, at one point it was like, oh, I'll just retire and be on ESPN. That's not a thing anymore. So now people are like, I'll make a podcast. By the time you retire, that won't be a thing anymore. I'm struck by some of the guys I've seen do it well, and some people who very sadly it overtakes them. And it really is sad. I'm not going to name anybody, but I've seen people where I'm like, oh my God, you were on top of the world at one point,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, for me, and I bring up my faith a lot, but it's just, I truly believe it humbles me. It's not about me. It's not about what I can do. It's not about the high that I get from being in a stadium of 77,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
I do it because I believe God wanted me to be here to, spread the gospel in Christ, but also helping people with type 1, also helping younger athletes learn about football. I do a football camp up in Massachusetts every year to help raise money for our local high school football program. And I go back up there and it's just so much fun, teaching them football fundamentals, but also competing. I'll literally go and I'll play quarterback and I'll literally drop routes that we run in the NFL and talk to them about it. I'll put a defense out there. Right. And it's there's just so much more than just what I do for a living. And I don't think I realized that before I came to faith in Christ. I think I was just oh, it's just football. It's just football. This is all I do. It's what I can get out of it. And now it's it's about other people. It's about community. It's about, what kind of an impact can we make that's Christ-centered? And, I know there's going to be a grieving process for me. I can say all this and it sounds good on paper.
Yeah, but it'll hit you still. Yeah.
It'll still hit me. And that's just naturally, and there's nothing wrong with that at all.
Right.
You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, I got to realize I'm a father. I am a husband. I help kids learn about football, diabetes. I'm going to be helping my daughter figure out her schoolwork. And there's just so much bigger than what I do. And it's not about me. And, it's all about Christ and how he's moving in my life. And I think that will help me when I reach that point in my career to overcome kind of the sadness of this is what I've done my whole life.
I don't know how else you're supposed to moderate that. Cause it's got 70, like you said, 70,000 people screaming all at the same time. It's got to be a jolt.
It's awesome, especially in the playoffs when they're even louder than you thought that they could get.
I'm going to give you a lot of credit. You play for a really enthusiastic fan base too, a sincerely enthusiastic fan. Some of those games you flip on and there's 4 people in the stands and they're asleep, but you guys are, everybody's dressed for the part, they're screaming and yelling, they're following the game the whole way. It really is something.
Shout out to Kansas City, man. I love you guys. I love Kansas City. The best fans, and there's great fans all over the NFL. NFL fans are the absolute best, but seeing our Kansas City fans, the way they travel to different games, it's an atmosphere, and I love them to death.
Have you been on the other side of a Philly fan? Have you ever heard anything that made you laugh or cringe?
Yeah, I played Philadelphia my rookie year, and it's a hostile environment. They got a great fan base over there. Shout out to Philly fans as well. It was bumping in that stadium. It was a 1:00 game, I believe, when I played there, but they got so much passion and pride for their team. And
crazy. Yeah.
And that's why I say all NFL fans, they love football and it's all over the world. I played in Germany and it was a soccer fan environment that loved football. Okay. And they were doing soccer stuff and the John Denver song, Country Roads. They literally got up and sang that with their hearts out. And I'm this is the coolest thing ever. Just to see the different traditions that NFL fans, not just here in America, but all over the world have, it was an absolute blast. And that wasn't a very big soccer stadium in Germany, but they got that place rocking. And it was one of the coolest experiences I've had playing in the league.
I have 2 silly questions for you and I'll let you go. I'm glad you said about the camp because I had questions here from people. They wanted to know if you had a football camp anywhere that you could be. Is there a place they can find out about it, or is it a local thing just for the school? Or
So I do it to raise money for like local high school programs in the area. Try to get like different coaches to like be involved so we can raise money for them. But obviously it's in Leominster, Massachusetts. Okay. So primarily the proceeds go to Leominster high school football. But anyone, and we have kids from New Hampshire come.
Yeah.
Maybe Connecticut, maybe New York. It's a pretty local camp. So usually it's, people within driving distance of it. But I've done that like 3 out of the past 4 years. We haven't come out with the details about it this year. 1 year it got rained out, unfortunately. And sometimes my schedule doesn't really align to get the camp going.
Right.
But in the next month, we're able to get it done this summer. Though you can just go onto my Instagram page, follow me.
There. Okay.
And I'll post about it, and there will be information on it as well. If they wanted to make the trip up, but it's a fun camp. We usually do like 2.5 hours for a middle school group, 2.5 hours for a high school group. And we'll do like skills and drills for like the first part of it. And then like the last hour, we do like 7-on-7 or like 1-on-1s, just like for a competitive side. Like I know sometimes it kind of gets real boring just doing drills for 2.5 hours and like footwork and stuff like that. And then I also want to be involved. Like I want to be making passes to kids. I played quarterback in high school before I transitioned to tight end. And that's like the most fun part about, like, I love coaching the kids and stuff like that, but like actually playing with them and like drawing up plays and throwing the ball all over the field and like seeing the excitement of like a safety that like of some kid that intercepts me, you know what I mean? And I make a bad pass, or like they read me, well, it's so much fun. And so next month you'll have a little bit more information about it if we're able to get it going this year.
Were you always this broad, or were you a wide receiver at one point? Did you ever play receiver?
Yeah, I was always a bigger kid. Right. I'm 250 pounds now. When I was in high school, I was like 215, 220 area. So I'm a lot bigger now than I was back then. But I played quarterback up until my senior year, and then I moved to tight end after that. So that's when I started to gain some weight and fill out.
I remember growing up, like watching Reggie White play and thinking, like, if everyone's here, he's somehow 10 steps ahead of him, right? Like it almost felt like he was Michael Jordan. But now you guys are all like so freaking like athletic. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's centers pulling out there 15 yards downfield, throwing linebackers over, like, and then they run back and do it again. The football I used to watch, those guys bent down, stood up, push, and they took a breath. Now the league is just full of like just murderers. Like, you know what I mean? Like everybody is just so athletic. Like, you ever think if I would have been born 40 years ago, I'd have been the Michael Jordan of football?
And there's a lot of comparing, between like guys now and like guys then. Like people probably compare Reggie White to like Chris Jones now, or a DN that we have, you know what I mean? But I think the beauty of it is like whatever generation you played in, like there is a certain talent that you need to have and stuff like that. Yeah. I'm fortunate enough to be playing in this generation, and I got a lot of respect for the guys that paved the way for me to be where I am today, who started the NFL, who really progressed the game as it went on. The NFL way back when does not look anything like it does now. And it's all because of the people who started and then the advancements that came on through it. So much respect to all those guys, and I play against the guy, Chris Jones, every day in practice. And that's like the biggest dude, around. And that guy moves like a defensive end. He's a D tackle, you know what I mean? And he's like almost unguardable. So it's cool to see kind of the different nuances and advancements that guys have made with technique, strength, conditioning, speed, all that kind of go into football. And it's really cool to see. And, we'll throw on old tape of, older players when the videotape was like all grainy and it was hard to see. But, we'll throw on like, hey, this play worked back then. Let's try it, today. And it works out. And that's kind of the beauty of the sport.
So my last football question is, obviously the season didn't end the way you guys wanted it to, right? How do you bounce back from that? Because it occurs to me, it's a very strange, the only reason I think I feel this way is because my son played such a competitive sport for such a long time. Like, I don't look, and like, I didn't feel joyous that you guys look sad. Like, I think of my kid in that situation. Like, to me, you're my son. Like, you've been working at this thing the whole way and it didn't work out for you. But what do you say to each other to bounce back from it? Or is it just a business and you just like, we'll just come back and do it again? Like, how does it feel to you internally, I guess?
Yeah, it's definitely tough because there's a lot of turnover between teams. So, we'll sign new free agents. We're going to draft a whole new rookie class. Like, there's just a lot that goes onto it. But I think it's kind of just like, watch the film. We'll learn from the past. Like, this obviously didn't work in the Super Bowl. If you're back here next year, we're just going to, learn from that. And we're not going to do that again. We're going to do something completely different. We're going to hit the ground running here in OTAs, training camp, all season long. We're just going to get better. That's all
learn
we
and
can
move
do.
forward.
Yeah, I mean, and shout out to Philadelphia. I mean, they came in with a great game plan. Those guys came in juiced up, ready to go, and that was a great football team. They beat us, and and that was a great win for those guys. And It's just something that we got to learn from, move on, and hit the ground running and practicing with the group of guys that we have coming in this year. The guys who felt that Super Bowl, but also the guys that are new to the organization, build a whole nother, group of camaraderie, build that cohesiveness that we're going to need to move into this football season. And I'm absolutely thrilled to be doing it. I can't wait for that challenge. It's going to be a lot of fun. I took 3 weeks off to kind of decompress, get my mind off it, do something different. And then once I started training up, we've been ramping up ever since. And we're just going to hopefully hit the ground running. And I have full trust and faith and confidence in the entire organization. From the top down, it's world class. We got a truly amazing owner and Clark Hunt, his family, from our general manager, Brett Veach, Coach Reed, everyone in the coaching staff, and all the way down to the people that work in the kitchen and our equipment room and athletic training staff. It's just world class. And I can't say enough great things about that organization, the people that are there, the fan base that supports us every single week. It's truly a blessing. I love everybody over there. And it's just going to be so much fun, really hitting the ground running this summer and really competing every single day with each other and then eventually with our opponents throughout the season.
So the question that I've been asked to ask you the most, it's got nothing to do with football, nothing to do with diabetes. Can you guess what it is?
I can't. I kind of can.
Yeah, I guess you can. Do you know Taylor Swift?
Yeah. Man, I never realized kind of how many questions we'd get asked about that. But yeah, I mean, I have. She's a wonderful, wonderful woman. I mean, she's very nice, very kind, very down to earth. Yeah. I love that my boy Kels and her have a great thing going. And she's a phenomenal person, and really glad she's a part of the team.
I had no reason to ask you other than it was asked to me so many times. I have to tell you that I think one of the things that humanized professional sports players in recent years, it's the video of after you guys beat the Eagles, and it's Jason in his hotel room where she says, "You didn't win, Uncle Travie won." And you see him like swallow it and just go like, "Yeah, you won. It was great." And I was like, "Oh my God, they're just people playing a game." You know what I mean? Like, I swear that moment, I was like, I don't know how anyone's watching this rooting against anybody anymore. Like, just enjoy the spectacle of it and like go home. You know what I mean? Like, listen, I wasn't crazy before, but like it really did. It gave me a different perspective of it. Like just seeing that little girl like be happy for her uncle. You know what I mean? Like, it was really something. So
it is.
Yeah.
It is.
Anyway. All right. Well, no, I can't thank you enough. Could you hold on 1 second after I hit stop?
Yeah. You're good.
Okay, cool. Thanks so much, man. I really appreciate this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey kids, listen up. You've made it to the end of the podcast. You must have enjoyed it. You know what else you might enjoy? The private Facebook group for the Juicebox podcast. I know you're thinking, Facebook, Scott, please. But no. Beautiful group, wonderful people, a fantastic community. Juicebox podcast, type 1 diabetes on Facebook. Of course, if you have type 2 or you're touched by diabetes in any way, you're absolutely welcome. It's a private group, so you'll have to answer a couple of questions before you come in. We'll make sure you're not a bot or an evildoer, then you're on your way. You'll be part of the family. Hey, thanks for listening all the way to the end. I really appreciate your loyalty and listenership. Thank you so much for listening. I'll be back very soon with another episode of the Juicebox Podcast. If this is your first time listening to the Juicebox Podcast and you'd like to hear more, download Apple Podcasts or Spotify, really any audio app at all. Look for the Juicebox Podcast and follow or subscribe. We put out new content every day that you'll enjoy. Want to learn more about your diabetes management? Go to juiceboxpodcast.com up in the menu and look for Bold Beginnings, the Diabetes Pro Tip series, and much more. This podcast is full of collections and series of information that will help you to live better with insulin. The episode you just heard was professionally edited by Wrong Way Recording. WrongWayRecording.com.